Hey there, audio friends. Welcome back to the channel, and I got a good one for you today because I think I may have found my perfect DAC amp. Today we're going to look at the Xduoo XD05T. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about why I like it so much and why it's kind of what I've been looking for, and we'll draw some comparisons to some other things that I have on hand and have listened to for a long time, like the Topping G5. Let's dig into the XD05T and see what it's all about. All right, well, the first thing you're gonna notice about this guy is it's green, and I enjoy that, right? The other thing you're gonna notice is there's some tubes in there, which is another thing I've been looking for in a portable DAC amp. We'll talk more about those here in a moment. In general, this is kind of like a do-it-all device, right? It's a DAC, it's an amp, you've got all sorts of ins and outs and different things. So you can pretty much like run this as your desktop, like all in one unit, but it does have a battery, it does have Bluetooth, so if you want to pick it up and use it on the go, you can. Obviously, it is pretty big. Here's the Topping G5, which is not a small DAC amp, but this is kind of been my go-to one for quite a while here. You can see the size comparison. The XD05T is big, okay, but it's not unpocketable. But it's definitely going to take up your pocket if you put it in there. It's probably more of one of those transportable items where instead of walking around with it in your pocket, you're like taking it somewhere and setting it down, and then you can pick it up and take it with you somewhere else, type of a thing, right? Let's dig a little bit more into what it comes with. Now first I'm going to show you the box just because it's a pretty cool looking box, right? And I mean, it does have the same green colorway. I really like the packaging. It was all really nice. It does come with quite a few accessories as well. You can see I really haven't gotten them out of the bag because I already have plenty of wires and cables and things like that. But you got a 1/4-inch adapter, you got some little rubber feet that you can put on it if you want. USB-C to Lightning, USB-C to USB-C, little cables there. Then you've got a bigger USB cable, and you've got an adapter, USB-C to USB, what is that? USB-A, I think. And so you've got seemingly everything you would need to get up and running with this guy. Again, most of us probably have plenty of that stuff at this point in time, but at least it's there if you need it. Now looking at the unit here, there's quite a bit going on. This thing has a lot of functionality. So, let's take a quick look here. You've got DC in, and what's kind of interesting is it doesn't come with the plug style power cable, but you could use one if you've got, say, like a linear power supply coming around. Obviously, you got the USB-C in for power, you've got coax optical in, you've got USB in for data, you've got an auxiliary in and out with both 3.5 and a 4.4 balanced in and out there. And then you can see on the back here, you've got a little toggle where you have to switch this to like charge versus battery. I'm not sure what EXTE is, if I'm being perfectly honest, but you do have to kind of switch between those, which I don't really like. That's a little finicky, but it's one little niggle, okay? And I do have a couple of those throughout. Let's see around the front here. You've got a full-size 1/4-inch out, which I appreciate that they included that because I do, down here at my desk, use a single-ended 1/4-inch, so that was convenient for me. You do have 4.4, you've got a power kind of toggle, you've got a turbo toggle, and you've got a bass toggle on there. So you've got lots of little different things. You've got a little display that's kind of gives you just enough information, not overwhelming by any means, but it does give you, a little bit of information there. Around the side here, you've got a few buttons, Bluetooth pairing button, a filter button, and an input button. All those work like they should. I don't have any complaints except for the volume wheel. So you can see it's got one of these volume wheels that's kind of built into the side here. And now it does work fine. It does have like 99 steps of volume or 100 steps of volume. So you get some really fine volume control with that guy. I just don't like that it's built into the side. I get that they understand, that maybe it's going to be in your pocket, and that's perhaps a little bit better than like a knob like this. But the Toppings knob is just so much nicer to interact with, that like analog volume knob. I would have rather seen something like that here, especially like because I'm mainly using it sitting out on my desk or something, and I think that's how most people will use it. So having it be like on the side there, I get that you can use it that way if it's in your pocket. I would rather just have a little knob that I can turn that feels really nice myself. All right, with all that out of the way, let's look at some quick specifications of this unit. It's using ES9039Q 2M DAC chips. USB chip is XMOS XU316, if that matters to you. Format support, PCM up to 32-bit, 768 kilohertz, DSD 64 through 512. MQA is here as well, if that's something that you care about. It's got Bluetooth 5.1. It does support things like LDAC, aptX HD, that type of stuff. Output power for unbalanced is 750 milliwatts at 32 ohms and 83 milliwatts at 300 ohms. Balanced output is about double that. You've got 1500 milliwatts at 32 ohms and then 565 milliwatts at 300 ohms. So if you're trying to drive something that's kind of demanding, you probably want to use balanced. Luckily, it's an option here. Okay, so let's talk about how I tested with this guy, and then we'll get into my sound impressions. I tested it Bluetooth, and I tested it through USB at my computer. I tested it with Aria Unveiled and HE1000 SE were a couple of the main headphones that I used. And then I've also got on hand a new SIMGOT IM, the ET142, which is a planar IM, and then it's got some kind of special tweeters in it. So that's how I tested it. And my findings were, it's awesome. It sounds absolutely fantastic. Again, this is really what I've been looking for in a portable DAC amp. Something that is capable of replacing a desktop unit, which this absolutely is, and something with tubes, right? Like I've really enjoyed using the Topping G5, but sometimes I feel like it just comes off a little too sterile for me. If you know anything about me, I tend to like just a little bit of analog in my signal, usually in the form of tubes. And so I love that I can have the tubes with this, but it can still be portable, it can still do Bluetooth, and it can live at my desk if I want it to live at my desk, and has plenty of power for 99% of headphones. So for me, this really ticks all the boxes. And when I'm thinking about the sound, I compared it again to the Topping G5. I think it compares favorably to it. It just sweetens things up a little bit, adds a little more naturalism to it. I know those are all weird audiophile terms that are hard to define. It's easier to listen to, right? The Topping is fantastic as far as cleanliness and performance goes, but there's some times where it just feels a little edgy and doesn't quite feel, you know, like it's got that smooth, easily listening feel to it, which I tend to like because the headphones I tend to like are like the HE1000, which are very detailed, tend to have, you know, a little bit more upper end emphasis. So I like something to kind of sweeten that pot a little bit. And the XDO5T does that. When I compared it to my desk setup downstairs, which is a JDS Labs Element 3 is kind of my main unit, and then I have an older Valley 2 with a JJ tube in it that kind of is my, like, if I want to try a tube, you know, on a headphone, I just plug that guy in. And I think it compares very favorably with those as well. Now, I love the Element 3 for just like a clean sound that isn't too edgy. And then the Valley 2 has just kind of been my default just because I picked it up super cheap for tubes. But when I went from, you know, the Element 3 and Valley 2 to this, I didn't feel like I was losing any detail. I didn't feel like I was losing any clarity or any of the technical stuff. But I feel like I did actually like the sound better from the XDO5T. I thought the technical details were there, but again, it just sweetens it a little bit, makes it a little bit rounder, a little bit more enjoyable. I find that the XDO5T does throw a little emphasis on some interesting things that are happening in the mix that just make it kind of like fun to listen to and engaging, but never like harsh. Just want to jump in here quick. I have one thing that I forgot to mention about the sound of the XDO5T, which is the bass boost that's on here. Now, Traditionally, I am not a bass boost user. I usually think they're a little heavy-handed and that they, color the music just a little bit too much beyond what feels normal to me. With this, I think it's really well implemented in that I found myself switching it on and off on a fairly regular basis depending on the track. And I think this is definitely something you could do, with specific headphones or IMs or albums, right? Where like if you feel like they just are sounding a little bit thin, you can flip this on and not only does it add some low end grunt to it, but I feel like it also warms up the mid-range as well. So I found that to be a very usable feature that I usually don't find myself going to on a lot of devices, but I did on this guy. So that's another big win for this. One thing that I'll say when using the SimGot MT142 is there is a noise floor that you can hear. It's not incredibly annoying, and for the most part, like I didn't even realize it was there during music listening, but if you're kind of in between songs and things like that, there isn't a very small hiss that you can kind of hear in the background, but it was far from a deal breaker for me. I love this thing. I don't think we need to beat this to death. The only major concern that I have with it is what happens if the tubes go bad. How do you get in there to replace them? Can you replace them? I don't have that information, but that's something that definitely I will look into and I'll update once I find some information on that. Hey, I just thought I'd jump in here. I did contact Xduoo to get confirmation on what happens with these tubes, and they said they are not replaceable. They are soldered to the board. So that's something to keep in mind here. But if we do a little bit of math, right, let's kind of jump to the calculator and I'll walk you through my thought process about these non-replaceable tubes. If we do a quick Google search, we see, maybe 1,000 to 10,000 hours for basic tubes. That's a huge range. Let's err on the side of, 7,000 hours. Okay, so let's pick that out. Now we got to figure out how much time we're going to use this amp a year, and then we'll see how many years an amp like this would last. So let's say I listen 2 hours a day, and we're just going to say I do that 7 days a week, give or take. That's probably about right. And then there's 52 weeks in a year, if I am thinking correctly. So that's 728 listening hours in a given year if I'm listening to just the Xd05T. So if we say 7,000 hours divided by 728, we can see that this amp should pretty easily last me about 10 years. Which means I'm not too concerned about not being able to replace these tubes. They sound fantastic, and quite honestly, the device probably is going to be replaced by then either way with something different and newer and shinier that's come along, but that maybe, gives you some perspective if that's something that would have been concerned to you. But as far as this DAC amp goes for me, I haven't been buying any audio equipment for a while. I'm at a stage here where I've got companies like Apos who sent this out, are pretty willing to send me things that I want to review and listen to. So I don't really feel a need to buy a lot of stuff, but this is an item that I think I am gonna go ahead and purchase just because, like I said, this could, I feel like, totally replace my desktop setup, and I can still take it on the go when I need to take it on the go. I like it that much. I think it's that good. It's a wonderful device. So I think that's gonna do it for the Xd05T. I love it. I think it's definitely worth a look. I suppose I should mention price, right? New, it's around $600, which seems a little pricey, but if you check out Apos certified, they've got them for about $450, and I think there's even a 10% coupon on that now. So you're getting down to around $400. And again, at that price for an all-in-one unit that can do just about anything you'd want it to do, well, I'd say that's just about right and worth it for me. So I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and just keep this one and toss them a few bucks. And at that point, I think I can pretty safely get rid of the G5, and I think I can probably, I'll probably keep the Element 3, but I might send the Valley 2 down the road. We'll see here. But yeah, XD05T, I think Xduoo, they do a lot of things right with these mobile devices. I think they make some very interesting products in this space, more interesting than most companies are doing. I do feel like it's not quite as well designed and built as the G5 here. I like this one feels more solid. I like the volume knob better. I like the built-in rubber, pad better. But those are all kind of little niggles. Again, it's nothing that's a deal breaker for me, but I think Xduoo can kind of evolve this platform and turn it into something that really like a lot of people are going to appreciate and love. So I think it's a great product. Totally recommend it. You can find a link to it down below if you're so interested. As always, I thank you for listening. Have you got experience with the XD05T? What do you think of it? I'm going to go ahead and link to my friend Signcraft's review of it because he thought it was pretty good too, and you can just hear another opinion on it as well. So thanks to everybody for watching. Thanks to anybody that comments below on their experience. Thanks to Apos for sending it out, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.